What's happening, people? Back again with another solo podcast of the Chat Shit Get Cancelled podcast. Not gonna lie, it's quite hard to get a guest every single week. Fuck me. I've been flying into everybody's DMs, by the way. I've been being quite a little slag in people's DMs, but I think we've got quite a lot lined up. I've been firing Q&As, not Q&As, sorry, question boxes up on my Instagram story and just like asking people who they want to see on. Please don't say James Smith to me one more fucking time, because I'm not. How am I meant to fly James Smith over from Bondi Beach into Glasgow and just be like, here, mate, can you just sit there for 2 hours and have a chat with me? But people have been suggesting quite a lot of good potential guests. I've got maybe like 4 or 5 of the people that have been suggested lined up over the next like month or two. And then if you've got any more suggestions, just send me like their Instagram link or whatever on Instagram. Just DM me on Instagram. I will ask them if I think they're gonna have a good chat. Then I will ask them. If I think they look like a melt, then I won't ask them. Today, so I wanted to come up with a decent idea for a decent listen of a solo podcast. My last one was on motivation, which obviously people need to hear about, but I still think it comes across preachy. So I'm gonna do what I'm good at, and that is having a rant about what I fucking hate about this industry. And there's a lot of fucking things. So I've got 10 things I hate about the fitness industry, and I think I'm just gonna rattle through them. I know it's gonna come across really negative, like it is. There's loads of good coaches out there. This is a class job. But like took me to 25 to find something that I really actually enjoyed doing. So although this is gonna be negative as fuck, it's gonna be laced with a lot of satire, and I'm probably gonna be taking the piss quite a lot as well. So it's not fully serious. So bear in mind, loads of good coaches out there. The industry is not completely fucked, but this is going to be a bit of a negative kind of podcast, right? So I'm just going to go through them one by one. Sat in Starbucks again and prepped the fuck out of this. So the first one is the business gurus in this industry, right? So it's a very popular thing for PTs to hire like a business coach or a business guru or like one of these people. And when I first started coaching, like the first thing was like, get one of these guys, pay one of these guys, and they'll help you out. And so that's what I did. But I'm not really talking about who I hired in general. It's just like a massive sort of, there's like maybe 3 or 4 like business gurus or like agencies that people go to, and they're all fucked, and they're literally just like snake oil salesmen. And you can see straight through it, because I didn't start PT until I was like 25. I'd done a load of different jobs. So when you're like 19 or 20, when you start PTing, you're probably, it's going to be harder to see through stuff like this, because you just see the whole like, right, let's get to become an online coach and let's follow these guys to see how to do it. So when I first started, right, what I'd done a year before I started, I knew I was going to become a PT. So I followed like, honestly, like 100 personal trainers. Most of them would have been from Scotland and then just other parts of the UK. And I started like watching their content, and I realised like maybe like 10 of them would be on their stories talking about the exact same thing, doing it in the exact same way. So they would be like, I remember during lockdown, they would all be talking about hairdressers. Like I went on all their stories and they were all talking about hairdressing. And then I just looked into it more, and they were all their sales funnels were the same. So they would just use words like, DM me the word fucking, what was it they come up with? DM me the word unstoppable. I'm taking on 5 clients, and you just need to DM me that word and we'll have a chat. And like, when you looked into it, it was just, they were all following the exact same script. And some of these people were people I knew. So I was like, there's something to this. Then I realized they're all in the same group. They all have Zoom calls on certain days, and then they all go out and say the exact same thing. And their sort of way of saying how this is all fine is that only like, if a regular person is only going to follow like 1 or 2 PTs, so none of them will notice. But when you're in the industry, you can see right through it. Now, the reason I don't like these business gurus, right, is because what they're getting the PTs to do is not to become better coaches. The first thing they get them to do is start charging 4 figures for like 12 weeks of coaching. So like, I'll happily say like my prices, right? So I'm like 500 quid for 12 weeks. And then like I go down to like 150 quid a month. A lot of people are so scared of saying how much they charge, but these people will charge like 2 or 3 grand for like 12 weeks of coaching without becoming any good at their job. So their first thing isn't like, oh, will we teach you how to do this? Oh, let's help you figure out how to do this part of coaching. Oh, can you teach someone how to do this exercise? Nah. None of that. You're now a 4-figure coach. You now charge 2 grand for 90 days of coaching. That's like literally their advice. So I've spoke to quite a lot of people that have been in these agencies and stuff, and some of the stories, man, some of the fucking stories. I remember one guy was in, he was telling me about it, and he was like, they encouraged me to they encouraged me to buy a Porsche because I need to start acting like a 6-figure coach. Fuck off. Get to fuck. You literally teach like 30, 40-year-old women, that's your clientele, and you're charging them 2 grand. 2 grand for you to tell them to eat less food. That's what you're doing, because that's what most online coaches aren't helping people with their workouts in the gym. They're literally just like giving them a meal plan and then like giving them accountability Zoom calls, and then they have all this bollocks where they're like, oh, we've got this life coach on Wednesday, and these guys just like go on all of their mates' podcasts, and they just do the same thing, and then they all just, it's like a big fucking cult, and they all just rip people off. Another one, they were actually showing me screenshots of like the community groups. I'm not going to mention any names or anything. I don't even know the names of these people anyway. He was showing me screenshots of the group, and a woman was like, I've got a client that wants to build muscle and I don't know how many calories to put her on. Can anyone advise me on this? I'm like, you shouldn't be in this job, and you've probably just charged someone 2 grand and you don't know how many calories to put her on. That's embarrassing. This is what I mean. So it really harms the industry, put it that way, because you've got coaches charging ridiculous amounts of money, which in turn, when someone has a bad experience with a coach and they've been well overcharged, the likelihood of them going to another coach, they lose trust with the industry. It does actually affect how everything works. And I've had loads of people in my direct messages over the last like 2 years just with their horror stories with one of these coaches. So again, I said this was going to be quite negative. It's not to be like put people off coaching. It's actually just like, it'll help you be aware of what goes on in the industry. And you all know it's fucked anyway, so who really cares? The second one that is definitely something I bang on about on the podcast all the time is just photo shoots. I think we need to start seeing them for what they are. And what they are is a marketing tool for coaches. Like, so if you have a coach that if there's a coach that has 30 clients and he's got 20 of them doing photo shoots, one, they have the incentive that they're going to be getting their picture taken, so obviously they're going to stick to the calories for longer. But what they're using the photo shoot for is to market their business. So they're rinsing, repeating these photo shoots. It's nothing about what you want to do, it's about what's going to get them more clients. So a lot of the times these are pushed onto clients and it's not actually what they want to do. And even if it was what they want to do, a lot of people don't actually realize what goes into a photo shoot, and they don't realize that what they think they want might be fucking toxic for them. So yeah, like when a client comes on with me, they always say they want to lose weight, but you have to go like, why do you want to lose weight though? Because that's not really, like, that might be something that you want, but there's always there's another reason for it. I need to stop saying fucking every 2 seconds. There's always another reason for why they actually want to lose weight. And you have to dig deeper into that. Otherwise, you can get them whatever result you want and they'll still be unhappy with how they look, their confidence, and just how they're going about their day-to-day life. You need to figure out why they actually want to lose weight. So when you put a photo shoot on someone and just show them like, oh, here, this is what I've done with these 2 clients, they'll be like, yes, that's what I want. But they don't realize what goes into it. Also, if you think about what a photo shoot is, it's you getting oiled up, taking your top off and going into a gym and like lifting a weight, like not even doing a set, just like lifting a weight, that, and someone with a professional camera is taking pictures of you. That's so weird and so vain. Most clients I get Some of them are weird, but I wouldn't say they're vain. That's probably the last thing they would say to describe themselves. Otherwise, they wouldn't be getting coached. So why is that something that is pushed onto your clients straight away? Do you want to do a photo shoot? Do you want to do this really, really arrogant act of oiling yourself up, going into a gym and getting your picture took? If you actually think about it, I doubt you probably do. But again, they'll get pushed on you because that's going to make them money, and that's what they care about. Right. So the third thing isn't really necessarily something about the fitness industry itself. It's just social media in general just now, and it's just in the last like 5 years, there's been a massive sort of switch with how algorithms work. So we had longer form content. Instagram used to be sort of pictures and stuff, which was still very sort of like the best looking people would come up first. The six packs and all that would come up first. But now it's like sort of there's a lot less like long form content like podcasts and stuff. And now it's sort of short form. And what is toxic about this in terms of the fitness industry is I felt myself changing, like not changing my opinion, but changing the way I spoke about things to suit what banged on social media. So at the very start, most of my chat would have been about fat loss, calories, and just stuff that validated how people felt because it banged on TikTok. That was only 3 reasons I was doing it. And it's very hard to stop yourself when you're starting a business and that's like your main, like that was what was driving clients to come to me. So you end up changing the way you would actually frame things to your actual clients. You end up changing the way you'd frame it on social media because you need to get views, the ego comes into play, and also you need to make money. So with the algorithms, you'll go on now, like watch a few PTs that just come up on like your For You page, and I guarantee you some of them will. And it's just like, here's 5 hacks for fat loss. Like there isn't really hacks, do you know what I mean? And it's just all of this content is so sort of toxic to watch, and it's so fat loss geared. Everyone's fat loss, fat loss, fat loss. And even if losing weight is a goal of yours, when everything's so hyper fat loss focused, it's so triggering just for like regular people to see as well. People that don't need to see fat loss stuff are going to see all the time stuff as well. And it's just something, this is exactly why I started doing a podcast as well, because I feel like you can teach people way more things on a podcast. They actually get to know who you are as well, because on an algorithm, I need to be a bit of a prick to like grab your attention in the first 5 to 10 seconds. I need to say something bizarre that's going to make you go, what is this guy about to say? Whereas I don't really want to do that. I want to just chat freely, have a bit of a laugh, and try educate people. That's all I want to do. Whereas short form content doesn't allow you to do that. So you are seeing a really big shift with algorithms now, and I do think it is. It's not helping the fitness industry at all, and people are playing up to it. But again, I don't really think that's a problem with the fitness industry. That's a problem with algorithms in general. Again, something I've been quite passionate about, but that's why I'm switching to long form content. A lot of you will know Aaron, who does the Don't Be a Dick videos. He's switching to long form content because, see, after like 2 or 3 years of doing that every day, you do get actually sick of it. And I think if you're not careful, you can actually change as a person if you sit and make those type of videos every day. And I was just really careful of doing that. And at the end of the day, I just want to educate people as best as I can. Right, number 4 is just this whole sort of idea that how good you are as a coach is purely based on results, or even progress in a client is purely based on results. And when they say results, they mean transformation pictures, right? So if you go on a coach's Instagram and it's just full of transformation pictures, that I'm not actually like saying that's a bad thing, but that like how good those transformation pictures, people base how good a coach is off of that. Now, I'm not being funny. Anyone can lose quite a lot of weight in 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks. Anyone, genuinely anyone. Like you can do something bizarre. You can just take someone's calories down. It doesn't make that person a good coach. Like you're if you're PTing for like 2 years and you don't know how to manipulate someone's calories to bring them down, you're a moron. Like you're literally a moron. That's the simplest thing in the world. And especially if you've watched enough, you like if you spent 10 hours on YouTube researching just calories, then you'll be able to do it. But that's not what's going to help a client long term. Like, and I always think we're forgetting that as a personal trainer, the first part of your job is teaching someone how to exercise. You can do cardio or whatever. I do think most of us are teaching people how to lift. Most of us have got into the gym to lift, and that's what's helped us. So if that's what's helped us, then that's what we should be teaching our clients primarily. I think lifting should be the primary thing that we're teaching them as a personal trainer. Obviously, if you're a nutritionist or whatever, it's obviously more food focused. But for me, I'm like lifting weights first. Nutrition obviously is a byproduct. So manipulating someone's calories and then posting a picture. Also, just to give some like nuance as well, right? I don't even know if that's the right word. That was too complicated for my English. But if you look at someone who's like maybe 2 stone overweight, right, compared to someone who's maybe like 5 or 6 stone, being honest, right, if you get that person that's just a little bit overweight to lose like a stone or a stone and a half, the progress picture itself is going to show way more than someone who's made just as much progress, but they're quite a bit overweight. So if you look at it, if you're constantly getting people that have maybe just put on a stone or 2 stone, and then you're getting them to lose that, those progress pictures are going to look like those progress pictures themselves are going to look way better. It's way easier to get someone to get a good result through that, whereas it's actually hard. Like I get more impressed by someone who's like maybe had a client that's been pretty overweight and they've worked together for like for me, the longer in between the two pictures, no matter what the difference is, the better, because that shows that you've built up their confidence. You've got them to get into the gym for a year to like 18 months, and you've actually made a solid difference. Like, so the longer the progress picture, I'm actually more impressed by that. There's nothing impressive about like an 8-week fat loss journey. There's literally nothing impressive about it. Like all you've done there is tell someone to eat less calories. You've maybe taught them a little bit in the gym, but fuck all else can be achieved in those 8 weeks. So for me, all of these constant progress pictures, all these short-term progress pictures, that's not results. That's just you've manipulated someone's calories for a few weeks, and there's way more to go on. Way more to go on in their head, and there's way longer in their journey to be done if they're ever going to make a change in their life. Nothing can be done in 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks. Like you can't impact someone's life quick enough, or in that amount of time. Number 5, right? This is going to make me cringe quite a lot because I would have been very, very guilty of this. Sorry, I'm just going to smack this can of Monster. I'm actually just, and I've said it quite a lot on the podcast as well, I'm so sick of the term calorie deficit, and I'm so sick of it being like just a blanket statement that's said by coaches as if like just you saying that means that you've now educated another person, because that's just a principle of how you lose fat, and that's all it is. That doesn't mean that you've actually taught them anything. Even like when you actually start to get into like how many calories people should be on, obviously there's varied amounts for everyone. It doesn't mean you've actually educated them and now they know that how many calories they need to be on, and that they now know that if they are on less calories for like a good few weeks that their metabolism is going to come down a bit and they're probably going to have to lower their calories. It doesn't mean you've not taught them any of that yet. You've also not taught them at all about how to actually maintain that, because when you say things like you can eat what you want and lose weight as long as you're in a calorie deficit, people will do that. People will genuinely go and eat whatever they want, and they'll do it for like 2 weeks, feel like absolute shit, because like Paul the producer of the podcast, was talking to me earlier. Someone was talking about potentially doing it with like rolls and Twixes or whatever, and you would lose weight. if you were actually to go do that, you would feel like an actual sack of shit every single day. So you need to educate people on what they can do to manage that calorie deficit. So it's just such a buzzword now in the industry. I think people forget that although James Smith like really hammered that home for ages, at the same time he was educating around it all the time. So he wasn't just coming out and just saying calorie deficit all the time. He was bringing out videos every single day, educating all the other facets of fat loss. So like when you say stuff like that, people tag James Smith, and it's like James Smith would agree with you 100% if you're saying that it's not just about calorie deficits. Like he would agree with that. So I just don't think it's as helpful as people think. And being honest with you, I spent a year hammering that home. I did educate people quite a lot at the same time, but at the same time, I didn't know the reason I went down that route and I solely talked about calorie deficits was because I didn't know anything else. And that's what I can see through when I'm seeing other people doing it, is they're in the same spot as me, where they don't actually have the knowledge to speak about anything else. They know that that's going to bang. They know that that's going to get them clients, and they know that everyone's so fat loss focused. So that's why they end up going down that route. So that, again, I'm just trying to make you aware of it. So I just don't think it's that interesting anymore. I think it's been done. I think we need to help people, educate them on what their actual food choices are throughout the day to maintain whatever calories they want to be on. Right, my sixth grievance with the fitness industry, I'm going to slow right down. It's very difficult to solo podcast. This is like my fourth or fifth, and see, trying to like not speak really fast because I've got notes here, right? And realistically, I could say all this in like 6 minutes, and then you end up realizing you're just literally like ramming it down like straight into the camera, just saying it all as quick as you can. So I'm gonna try to slow down a bit and chill out. Right, being too soft is one of the things that I'm finding the fitness industry is starting. It went so hard one way with like people being like proper army style training and like all these Joe Rogan quotes, all like the motivational quotes, and now it's going down the ultra soft route. Well, again, that's just a trend that isn't just the fitness industry, is it? That's just a trend in general at the moment. But you notice like a lot of coaches are playing into it, and I definitely, man, I was well bad for this at the start. I played into that quite a lot, and again, see, like I was talking about with algorithms, it's the same thing. Like you don't even realize you're doing it. So I think I've spoken about it on here before. I made like this video about how PTs don't understand people that are overweight because I was overweight myself. But the way I came at it, I just attracted all these people with blue hair that just wanted to be validated for how they felt, didn't actually want to change anything about themselves. And then they all flocked to me, man. They all loved me. Then realized after following me for like a month, there's also other parts of me they really didn't like, and they let me know about it in my DMs all the time. And like, see if people DM me more, I've never sat. I've spoke to people on this podcast as well. They're like, I'll happily have people DM me, tell me their opinion, and I'll tell them mine. I'm like, fuck off. I don't want to have a conversation with anyone that wants to just moan in my DMs. Yesterday, a guy sent me a message about how he was like, I do some weeks I do 3 12-hour shifts. Sometimes I do 4 and sometimes I do 5. I just find it so hard to get to the gym. And that was just his message. And I was like, mate, are you just messaging me to moan about your work? Because I really don't care. Like, I just don't want people, I just don't want my DMs to be a place that people think they can just have a moan, because I don't want to listen to people moaning. And that's what I attracted. I just attracted people that were literally like moaning about anything, how they couldn't get to the gym, how all this, that, and the other. They can't afford dumbbells. The worst thing I've ever, like, people have actually said to me quite a few times is they can't afford adjustable dumbbells when they're like 20 quid. And I'm like, see if we look to your finances, let's be honest. I'll go on your Instagram profile, pretty sure you can afford adjustable dumbbells. You're just having a moan. So that's one thing I find that PTs are playing into, especially now that you see this whole body confidence movement with can't remember what her name is, or was it Tessa or whatever, on the magazine, I'm not going to go into that because a lot of people have played into that for views as well. But you do find a lot of people are now just going down the route of like, oh, it's fine if you don't go to the gym this week. Oh, it's fine if you don't do this, that, and the other. And all you end up doing is attracting a load of people that you don't want to work with. Because as a PT, you want to be upfront and go, here, you need to do all of this. It's not me that's going to do it. You need to do it. I'm just going to educate you on like what's going to be something that you can manage, what's going to be something that you can keep up. But at the end of the day, I'm not doing it for you, and I can't say anything to you that's going to get you to do it. You already need to be in the mindset of like, I'm going to make a change here. So when you start being really soft all the time, you will get people that aren't prepared to do that. You'll get people that just want to have a moan and just want to be validated for feeling the way they do, when actually they need to take some sort of responsibility for it. Number 7 is online coaching being sold as like the dream. The dream for any coach when they start is to be like this online coach that just floats about the world whenever they choose. Just if they want to be in Dubai 1 week, they just go to Dubai. If they want to like move to Bali for a month, they just move to Bali and they just online coach. That was like the dream freedom job. That was like, right, 2 years, 3 years in, that's what I'll be doing. I'll be in Bali. Ironically, I'm going to Bali in a month, but so there's quite a lot of irony laced in this, but it's all a load of bollocks. So for the first year, I actually just done online coaching instead of working in person, just due to lockdown, due to making the stupid decision of moving to London and actually not being able to pay for London rent and London gym rent. I just couldn't afford it, so that was the reason I didn't actually do in person. Not that I didn't want to do it; it was that I actually couldn't afford it. I wouldn't have been able to make any money. And all I can tell you, it was the loneliest year my full entire life. I wouldn't say it's the worst place I've been in, but it was definitely the loneliest. In order to make money to pay my rent, I had to lock myself in my room and just do basically admin work. That's what online coaching is. I don't know why it's sold as this like dream job, as like this really rewarding job. See, when you do someone's program for them, right? How there's zero difference to you, like, I don't know, doing someone's taxes as an accountant on a spreadsheet. There's no more enjoyment in the programming. Programming, I've never once heard any coach say, "Oh, here, I love programming." Do they? Fuck. It's literally just like, here's 3 sets, here's your rest times, here's your amount of exercises, here's how many days. There's no way any of you freaks love doing that. There's absolutely no chance. Obviously, it's just part of the job, and I'm not saying that like you can't cut that out. Obviously, you have to program for people, but when that's a big part of your job, there's no enjoyment in that, and it's literally just like, it's the same as working from home in any other job with online coaching. There's no personal aspect to it at all. And what I always say to coach, because a lot of coaches will come to me and go, "How do I like get online clients? How do I become fully online?" Because it's pushed so much. Like, that's the dream for everyone. It's just like, "Oh, are you fully online yet?" Because that's what everyone thinks is a dream. Like, if anything, in-person PTs are looked down upon a bit. It's like seen as like a regular job, if that makes sense. Whereas online, they're like, "Oh, they must be making really good money. They must have a good bit of freedom." Like, it's almost seen as like a different job when it's not. And what I say to people that are like passionate about becoming fully online, I'm like, why did you become a PT? Is it because you like working with people? Is it because you like helping people? Is it because you like being around people? Then think about what being online is. Because I would have to like literally, I wouldn't really be able to go out that much when I was working in London. I also like would have conversations with like my flatmate when he came back from work, and it'd be like 10 minutes into the conversation, I'd be like, "Here, mate, I need to shut this door because I need to actually do work for the next like 3 hours." And it would just be like literally replying to like WhatsApps, replying or like doing programming, replying to inquiries, like pure admin work. So when you look at why you've became a PT, those are probably not the reasons you done it. So you need to look at if that's going to be an enjoyable lifestyle for you, because the idea that you just like fly to all these countries and work on your laptop. Have you ever tried to work on your laptop on a beach? It's not possible. You can't see the screen. So if you've got 40 clients and you're able to gallivant about the world, like you're able to pay for the flights, you're going to have to spend most of the time in the house doing the admin work for that. Like, and you'll have to be in a room with nobody else there. You can't really work in coffee shops because you can't, like a lot of us are voice messaging back clients. You can't work in a coffee shop and voice message people. I sent one voice message today in Starbucks, and like that was the only one I could do because there's people next to me talking. I could see them looking at me. You need like to online coach. You need like a secluded place. You need nobody else around you, and you need to like put your head down for like 4 hours. Also, if you look at what I had to do as well, because this was a big decision for me to like go into in person, really dial back the online coaching, because I was making really good money, but I was miserable. And if I look back on the times that I was like happiest in life was when I wasn't even doing good jobs. I was doing like bar jobs, but I was around people I liked and having a laugh, which made me not mind the work. So that was when I really took a step back and was like, right, everything I'm doing just now is for money, and it's probably for my ego, and that's why I'm miserable. So that's one thing that I would tell every coach that ever talks about online coaching to me in my DMs. I'm like, straight away, weigh up what you're actually passionate about and see if it's worth it. I think having online clients is definitely something you should do, but you don't need to go fully online. You need to weigh up if that's going to actually suit you. Some people it does. Some people are extremely introverted, but at the same time, the likelihood of someone being extremely introverted and wanting to be a PT, I would say it's mostly extroverts that go to become PTs. Number 8 is PTs trying to become like mental health experts. So obviously over the last like 15, 20 years, or maybe more so the last 10 years, everyone's sort of talking about mental health more. It needs to be talked about. It's like becoming more and more apparent that more and more people are struggling with it. But there's also people that can advise on it, and people who have done like a 12-week PT course, even if I think a lot of people seem to think because they've maybe struggled with something, they now have all the answers for it and they can give advice on it. Like, I think I'm not, this isn't something that is as big as the other like 10 things I've said. It's just something that like maybe annoys me every now and then. It will just be like somebody will post something that's like 10 tips for anxiety or dealing with anxiety, and it's a PT, or dealing with especially depression. If you start talking about depression and like tips to deal with it, there's so many people suffer in different ways, and there's so many different situations that your little 10 tips on your Instagram page, that like even your ego to think that you can actually help people with that post, I think is just shocking. But there's like even these little courses now that you can do that last like a week or two, and it gives you like this little certificate, and it does not make you a therapist. So just because you've done a 2-week course on mental health doesn't mean you should start speaking about it. I think the only thing that PTs can do toward like actively towards helping with mental health is just being aware of it. Just being able to see like when someone is maybe struggling with mental health and not really talking about it, but not giving any advice on it. I think still our job primarily is to teach people what to do in the gym or exercise. Shouldn't be about like helping them helping them with their mental health would be literally maybe if you think there is something going on, maybe suggesting different things or like maybe different services and stuff like that. I think that's definitely important as part of the job. Being careful with what I say with this one, definitely, because I do think people bet you there is personal trainers that have helped people with their mental health, but at the same time, that's the ones that are being careful with what they're actually saying and not actually giving full on mental health advice. They've just maybe got them to come to the gym 3 times a week, maybe lived a better lifestyle, and that's maybe been a snowball effect for their mental health. That's definitely something. that I'm sure a lot of personal trainers have actually helped their clients with. I'm sure I know for a fact I've definitely helped a lot of people with their mental health as well, but it's not from giving them advice to deal with like anxiety and depression. So I think people need to be really careful with those sort of things. And it's definitely, I've just, I just really don't like people profiting off stuff like that. Like people profiting off like the trend that everyone's talking about, anxiety and depression, and seeing like money for it. Like people are just seeing cash in their eyes when people are talking about anxiety and depression, and then like filtering that into their fat loss, which is also like fat loss is like cash to personal trainers. Talking about fat loss, they know they're going to get clients off the back of that. Number 9 is it kind of filters into the talking about mental health, and it seems to be a trend of like when you become a PT 2 or 3 years in, you just like slowly drift into becoming a life coach. And I'm not being funny. A lot of these PTs are like 22. They're from Surrey. They're doing motivational videos in their fucking golf that they're leasing, that their dad's paying the lease for. Their dad still pays their phone bill, and they're sitting giving people life advice, quoting books, quoting fucking Mark Manson's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. They love quoting that book. I've actually wrote it down. This is the one they love. Action isn't just the effect of motivation, but it's also the cause of it. So it's the same as when they say calorie deficit. They like say that, and they're like, yeah, you just need to like go through. This is my morning routine. You just need to go through this, and you just need to do a cold shower, and then you'll be absolutely sweet. I realize I'm saying this, and Paul actually does all of that. But it's just it's becoming a massive trend as well. Um, I cringe so much at seeing like, oh, this is becoming so negative. But like when I like someone that's a lot younger, you know that their clients are going to be like most of my clients are maybe in between the ages of like I'd say like 30 and like 50. I've obviously got other ones that are younger and maybe a bit older, but I'd say in between the ages of like 30 and 50. And like if you were to say a quote to them because they've maybe been out drinking or something, you're like, you are you are a byproduct of the 5 people you surround yourself with. And you're like, mate, she's got 3 kids. Do you want her to just disown her kids? Like it's fucking embarrassing that you're trying to give like 30 to 40-year-old people advice when they're maybe twice your age, advice on like how to live their life, how to deal with their situation that you've never been in. Like for I think even myself, right, I was really naive when I came into coaching, and you start like maybe going, because you learn something about maybe sleep or how that affects everything, and you're like to your client, right, did you get 8 hours of sleep last night? And they're like, nah, 2 of my kids started crying in the middle of the night. You realize you can't sit and just quote all these studies and give all this like perfect lifestyle advice to people that don't have perfect lives, like don't have lifestyles that can accommodate for living all these healthy habits. And like sleep was a massive one, because you most people, if you actually give them the stats, it's just they know now that they should be sleeping more. It's whether or not that's feasible with their lifestyle. Like if you've just had a newborn, you're not going to get 8 hours of sleep, and just the younger you are, I think the less you kind of understand that, because you have the what do you call it, the privilege of being able to sleep as long as you want, providing your job isn't an early rise. Number 10, I think I've not actually wrote it down, but I've wrote it down on my phone. So we'll just quickly see what that is. Um, yeah, fat loss challenges. Oh no, I did write it. Yeah. So I guarantee you, if you follow quite a lot of fitness people, you'll see a lot of um challenges. So 8, 10, 12 week challenges. I'm not really fully against that, because it's just like a business strategy. But obviously when you work in the industry, you can see it more for what it is. It's just like sort of sales. So I'm not against challenges, just depends what the actual goal of it is. If it's strictly like not who can lose the most fat, but who has the best transformation, then that's when it starts getting toxic. I don't For me, a lot of the actual trends in the fitness industry, you'll have people call out like the slimming clubs and like the Herbalife and stuff like that. But then when you actually see what they're doing, they're still playing into the same things. So for me, a fat loss challenge is no better than like a slimming club. It's just teaching people toxic traits that like more fat loss, quicker fat loss is better than um a more I don't even like the word sustainable, but a more like a more sustainable approach. You're teaching people that like their values are are solely based on how quickly they can lose fat, how they look in a picture, how they look in like manipulated pictures with light and stuff like that. And it was the same with like photo shoots. You're teaching them that their values are based on how they look for this photo shoot, which is when you start to with the photo shoots, with the progress pictures in short amount of time, and the extreme sort of dieting, because these are all just extreme diets and uncontrolled diets in a different form. Fat loss challenges, photo shoots, bodybuilding competitions. And when you do it like that, you're just flirting with eating disorders. You're literally like dancing with an eating disorder. I've had phases where I've went on with coaches and I've had me diet that long that I've actually had like symptoms, like scary symptoms, where I've started my stomach started to turn at the thought of certain foods, and it would been foods that I'd have been eating for the full time. So had a phase for like a week where like broccoli was starting to really turn my stomach. Heck, sausages were starting to turn my stomach. Like I wouldn't be able to eat something like that. It's maybe like 5 foods, and I'd been dying for like 17 weeks. And because my values aren't based on how I look at all, like I was really, really lean, and I like had six pack and stuff, and I would look at myself and I wasn't like, this is class. I was like, I don't give a single fuck about this. But when someone is coming at that from a completely different mental state than I was, they're in a dangerous position because they're going to want to keep going. And as soon as I'd never felt that way towards food before. So when even when I've been overweight and stuff like that, there was never any never any foods that I would have been scared of. The only food I would have been scared of was tuna, and that's not because I thought it was going to make me fat. It's because it makes me fucking feel disgusting. Um, so I was quite lucky that I never actually worried about maybe going too far and maybe actually like getting an eating disorder, because I think a lot of it's to do with like your values and just your education as well. I was aware that I wouldn't just put all the weight back on if I control my calories and bring them up. But with fat loss challenges, they're so there's such little like education provided with this. So like if you go into a fat loss challenge and there's like 300 people in it, you're not getting education from the source. You're just getting fucked in a group and being given maybe like a meal plan, some lesser calories, and being told that if you get the best progress picture, you're gonna win like £1,000 or whatever. That's that is set up to give people eating disorders. If you have 300 people in that challenge, you're gonna give people eating disorders. Definitely. Like I'm probably a bit more brutal about it when I talk about it, but that's the honest truth. Like people will maybe like I've had experiences with coaches and I'll sit and think, I wonder how many of their clients have developed an eating disorder. And I've heard horror stories of other coaches, not around like my area, but definitely in Scotland, of like bodybuilding shows or like pushing people into bodybuilding shows and the person coming out the other end of it like with an eating disorder and being completely fucked from it. So I even though I'm a bit more brutal about it, if that stops like 2 people from going into one of these that could have developed an eating disorder, then that's enough for me to be brutal about it, even if I piss a few people off. So yeah, like they're all the same. They all play into each other. Like see fat loss challenges, the progress pictures, like the really short ones, and photo shoots. They're all like the same sort of thing. That this whole like fast fat loss thing, this whole even just like this the spin classes, the all of the classes that are just like fat loss, they'll have a something fat loss in the name. They all play into the same thing. It's all just fat loss, fat loss, fat loss. And I think that's part of like what is really toxic about the industry. I think I'm gonna finish there. My next few podcasts are gonna be have guests on. I'll be honest with you. See, when I do these solo ones, I had a few people comment saying, oh, it's still really good and all that. I just know they aren't as good as when I have a guest on. They're really fucking difficult. It's really hard to just like formulate your thoughts in your head, and you're not speaking to anyone, you get no response back and stuff like that. So I'm gonna force myself to do like one of these a month on my own, because I need to be able to do them on my own. But it's definitely so much better when you've got a guest, and I think it's way better to listen to when you've got a guest. So if you can let me know what you thought anyway, or let me know any topics you want to hear about for a solo podcast, and I'll keep trying to get better at them. I just need to learn to slow down. I think just slow down, chill the fuck out, maybe look to the camera a bit more, and maybe prep a bit more, and that'll be it. Yeah. So thank you for listening. Let me know what you thought, and I'll catch you in the next one.